Welcome to another Community News Desk interview, and I couldn't be more excited to have my manager, Vice President of Product for OneDrive and SharePoint, Adam Harmetz, with us here live at the News Desk in Las Vegas. Welcome.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Isn't it fantastic to be with all these people together in one place? I love our virtual events and the scale they bring, but do you feel that being together with folks here has brought something different to your experience?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, community rocks, right? I don't know if you've sort of taken a tour of the community lounge. It's the best we've sort of ever done, bringing folks together, allowing people to get stickers, then hang out. There is something special about just sort of being able to have all the depth content and sort of having people be able to show up as their full selves and with a bunch of content across a bunch of stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And actually, that's a really good segue because, of course, we're talking about AI and everything that AI is going to bring to our audience and to people over time. But, I'm an original SharePoint person, right? As well, OG.
Yeah.
You're the real OG, though. How is SharePoint as a content management system? How are you thinking about its evolution in the era of AI and its importance?
The big responsibility, I think, because what customers are telling us and what the data is showing is that the primary citation source for Copilot today is SharePoint.
Right.
It is a store of knowledge. People communicate, people automate things, people collaborate, but underlying all that is about creating knowledge and knowledge that AI can use, Copilot can use to encourage people to know more stuff and to answer questions and do all of that. And so really thinking about, that's sort of the base foundation of what we do. And we do things like SharePoint agents. We, obviously integrate with Copilot, but it all comes around the line of how are people getting the most value out of the knowledge they're storing in SharePoint? And so, that is super cool. And we're trying a bunch of different ways, both sort of integrating deeply into the AI-born Copilot app, as well as augmenting our existing UX with AI. And then a little bit separately is the way AI is transforming web content creation. We've all seen that in our consumer lives and elsewhere, and it's just, we're all figuring out what AI is good at, but one of the things it definitely seems like it can help with is I got these thoughts. How do I turn it into a gorgeous, beautiful, branded SharePoint page? And it's really interesting and fun to see customers starting to use real live product from Microsoft embedded into SharePoint to do that.
I love that. I love that because SharePoint can be so beautiful. We had a wonderful event about that's still available online that people can find about all the new features in SharePoint, making sites and pages beautiful earlier in the year, and there's a lot more coming on that. We're in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is a place where you do big, bold things.
Yeah.
What's a big, bold decision in the SharePoint space that felt really risky at the time, but that has worked out?
You want me to go back in history?
I do. Because SharePoint's having a big moment coming up. It's going to be 25 years old, pretty soon. And so, go back for us a little bit.
Gosh, we're taking a lot of big, bold bets today. But if you want to look back on our history, when we started what we call Modern SharePoint, which was 9 years ago this week at a future SharePoint event. Yeah. I had a LinkedIn post about it where I had a shot of me then and a shot of me now, and I was like, less hair, but a lot more files.
That's amazing. I didn't realize it had been 9 years. It seems like just a minute, but time keeps passing. There's not much we can do about that.
And quite a bit of incredible growth over those 9 years. But we switched our development model. Obviously we had sort of ASP.NET and some sandbox solutions on-prem. It worked really well. And then in the cloud, not only we realized we needed something new, and we sort of bet on modern web tech. And we bet on basically all the open source toolkits people use for modern web development. And on the one hand, it's sort of obvious in hindsight, it's worked well. The most popular way of extending SharePoint today is the SharePoint Framework, which has become. And one of the reasons I think it's most popular is because people didn't need that SharePoint expertise anymore. I remember 2 or 3 years after we shipped SharePoint Framework, I was talking with a large bank, and they were like, I was able to hire sort of quote-unquote off-the-shelf web developers to extend my SharePoint. I didn't need to hire people with these dedicated SharePoint experiences. And that's the way we wanted it to work out, but that was a big bet at the time. We don't control our own destiny. What do we do to the community with a certain amount of expertise? And but it turns out that our community was super eager to learn modern web tech skills, and they've been able to apply it to more cases even outside of SharePoint, so it was a win-win. And I think that's just something we got really right. We listened to our community, we bet on something larger than ourselves, and we integrated it into the product. And I look for bets like that. That sort of the maker, the developer part of our product is super important. It's, people I listen to very deeply, and then when we can make them happy, we can expand their skill set, we can grow the pie so more people can become that. That's the types of bets that I like to make.
Absolutely. So. And we know what we like to say, change needs makers. And there's so many in our community making different things on all of our different capabilities. And I love the fact that, we're collaborative apps and platform, right? There's a platform persona in there that is so important to remember. On the opposite side of that, what's a lesson from our history over SharePoint that informs your decision making about how we move forward and innovate with AI?
That's another good one too. It's almost the same way. Ironically, I was talking about changing dev platforms, and we needed to do that, and that was the right bet. And then there's been some times in the SharePoint's history where, every on-prem release we had a new development platform, and we were churning people and never people could get comfortable with that. And so I think a lot about just in the times in SharePoint where we've asked for change too much too quickly without the right support in place to be able to think about that, because we are a trusted platform. Yes. We need to adopt the latest things, but we need to do it in a way that's moving with our customers and with our community, as opposed to too far ahead and or too far behind, for that matter, too. That's probably what I think about.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's really challenging today, and this is from the outside in. You're a graceful leader, and I'm lucky to have you as a manager, and I know that. And I also think it must be difficult to be a manager and a leader in this particular area, because we're moving so fast, but there's so much happening. And you are actually the executive sponsor of our diversity and inclusion track that's here at the conference, as well as the exec sponsor of the whole show itself. You did a great session on managing boredom and burnout. Now, I don't think boredom is the thing necessarily right now, but I do think burnout is something that we all have to be cautious of when we're taking in so much new information. How do you think about that as a leader, as a manager of people in this kind of a sea change?
Yeah, no, and it's a great question. I'll just sort of reinforce that sea change coming. Like, our point of view at Microsoft, my point of view is that AI is going to fundamentally transform every area of work and into something we're going to help everybody prepare and get ready for, and give them the tools, the training, the apps, all the whole entire package they need in order to transform their organizations with AI. It's super exciting. But yeah, it's intense, and it reminds me a little bit of the early days of the cloud, right? Yeah. Where there's not a lot of there's a lot more ambiguity, and we're sort of all trying to figure out some things together, and speed really, really does matter. That's what I think customers need from Microsoft in order to sort of continue the trust and the bet that they've placed on us. And so we think a lot about that. And then, to get to your question in particular, boy, a lot's changed and a lot stayed the same, because I think, in terms, we're all still humans, and so sort of what we need in order to worry about or to manage burnout is the same a little bit that we've had during the pandemic and other stressful times in our lives, right? It's always easier to detect stress and find the root cause of it, especially in these ambiguous times. And so, I know Microsoft, as you well know, has a lot of sort of training for employees too, like figure out why you're stressed. Like, if you figure out you're not ordering that salad, you're ordering the junk food for lunch a couple days in a row. Right. That doesn't tell you why you're stressed. That's a lot of harder question. Answer that too, but at least you can have those sort of early warning signals, because it's a lot easier to recover from being like annoyed than completely pissed off. And
exactly.
So, there's just some of those tips that I think that's what I talked about in the talk, and some other things.
Absolutely. For me, it's sleep. Yeah. I am a very patient person unless I have more than 3 days with limited sleep. And then, not only do I not remember what you said a few minutes ago, but my patience level is really impacted 100%.
But, I think this is a time when all of us at Microsoft and our community can do some of the best work of our lives.
Yes.
Like just career-defining work. The opportunity has never been bigger. And so I feel the same thing about the rapid rate of change and the anxiety that I have about that. I'll be vulnerable about that, but I also am super optimistic. I'm really proud to be part of this community and a part of this company that is leading on that and figuring that out together, because I think we'll look back on this time of our career, and while it was tough, it was also incredibly impactful in some of the times we did, real career-defining work together.
Absolutely. It's a rewarding time. There's opportunity. I'm always talking about seizing the day in your career, and now is the moment to do that. And I feel like, the resources you've brought out. I do want to mention one thing before we go. You had an excellent post on the blog that you have with your wife about being a product manager, and the insights. I feel like right now, every role, and especially one that has innovation and product attached to it, is really changing so much. But that opportunity is wonderful, right? To be able to lean in and just think of innovation differently. And here at Microsoft, you don't have to do it by yourself. Right? We get to come together. We come to events like this. There's forums and places online where we can gather and have these conversations. And, thank you for how much you lean into that community and how much you share of yourself there, because it really does matter. Because this is a unique time in this business, and we all have to band together and bring our own uniqueness and curiosity to the table as AI amplifies our impact, right?
Well said. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad to be on this interesting journey with you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. We really appreciate you. We have more of these amazing interviews on our Microsoft Community Learning channel. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.